Welcome to the Blueprint Breakers podcast. If you're done living by the traditional script or you're starting to question it, you're in the right place. This is where we talk about what comes next: pre-retirement, life design, reclaiming your time, your energy, and your freedom. Real conversations, real stories, real connection for women in midlife and beyond who are ready for a different kind of next chapter. My name is Amy Palmer. I am your host and facilitator for these conversations. To stay connected and find your people, come join us at community.blueprintbreakers.com. Today's conversation is one that I think you're really going to relate to. I'm talking with Lisa Jones, host of the Leadership Story podcast and a woman who built a successful career in resilience and business continuity without ever really being shown the path on how to do that. We talk about what it means to grow up surrounded by strong women, but still feel the pressure to stay small, stay quiet, and not make any waves. And what happens later in life when you finally stop and ask yourself, what am I actually afraid of? That's what Lisa and I talk about today. Hello, Lisa. Welcome to Blueprint Breakers.
Well, thanks for having me. I cannot wait for this conversation.
I'm looking forward to it as well. It's funny because we are a testament to what can happen when you start putting yourself out there online, just in terms of how we have connected and everything. So we'll get into that a little bit, but I just thought it's really cool the way that I get to meet amazing women like you and share you with my audience. So I'm looking forward to jumping into this.
Yes, and I love that you have this platform that you can connect with other women and share our stories, because we don't always get a chance to do that in the wild, as I will say.
Exactly. So one of the things that I like to ask is around the blueprint. We are Blueprint Breakers, and The name came about from the fact that when we are quite young, we are handed a blueprint, maybe not literally, but and in terms of what is expected of you in living your life, and what does it take to be a good quote unquote woman, person. What does it take to be fulfilled, to be happy? We're just sort of handed this, here's what you need to do, here's what you're supposed to do, right?
Yes.
So I'd love to hear, I like to hear people's origin stories of what was your blueprint? What did you inherit?
So I've been thinking about this for a while, and over the past few years, especially, so give you some backstory. My mom passed in 2020, and I thought about the imprint that she had on my life, but I came from a family of very strong and determined women. Most of the women in my family were single mothers. They tried to get married. My mother was married and got a divorce. And when she divorced my dad, we moved in with my aunt. And then my aunt, very strong woman, always worked. And then I had another aunt who lived with us. So I was surrounded by women. I say my family was women forward. So for me, it wasn't told to me, but through their examples, I learned that I had to be independent and take care of myself. Now, on the flip side, here's the rub. I was also the middle child, and I didn't want to cause waves. I saw what my older brothers and sisters were doing, and then I saw what my younger brother and my cousins, because I lived around my cousins and everything. So I was the type of child that wanted to just not cause waves, follow the status quo, do my best, get the good grades, don't stay out too late. I don't want my mama calling me and getting in trouble. So it was weird to see that although I knew I needed to be strong and independent, I also felt like I needed to follow the line and toe the line.
Wow. That's a nuance. That's a hard line to navigate, be strong, be independent, but don't cause too much, don't ruffle any feathers or cause too much.
Yes. And I would tease because my mother would say, my mother would always say, you were the best child. I said it right, because I saw what my sister was doing and I didn't want to get in trouble like her. And also, where I fell in the family, like I had a lot of older cousins and a lot of younger cousins, and not any that were like quite my age, as well as my brothers and sisters.
Mhm.
Like my sister is probably my sister's about 10 years older than me, and then I have three, and then my brother is 2 years younger than me. So we were close, but
Mhm.
the just the dynamics of the family was weird. And on top of that, my mother was the patriarch of the family. Like she was the oldest of all the children. And my mother, she had a lot of brothers and sisters. So she took on that mother role early. Her mother passed when she was about 20. So she learned to be a matriarch. So that was kind of what I was kind of like following in her footsteps in that way. Like someone was going to be the next matriarch in the family was going to be me. So I needed to toe the line, be independent, but not cause waves. At least that's
Right.
what I thought.
Right. Right. What about in terms of like relationships and family? What was it
Yeah.
assumed that you would pursue a traditional family, setup?
I I
Husband,
think,
kids,
yeah,
etc.
yeah. I think that's what I wanted because I didn't see that in my family.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I mean, I have a huge family, and I would say maybe, I'm just going to give it a number, maybe 15 to 20% were actually in stable
Mm-hmm.
married relationships. So it wasn't something that was modeled for me in my family. There were people on my block that I loved their families. I felt like they were like the Cosby show. And I was like, that's what I want. I want to have that. I want to be that married with the 2.5 kids, the dog, and everything.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to change the dynamic of our family. Like I wanted
Mm.
to show that we could be successful. I could be successful and be married and have everything like we were taught. We could have it all. The family, the high successful job, the children that will respect you and get good grades. It's like all those things. Like that's what I
Yeah.
wanted. I felt like
Yeah.
that's what I was missing in my life.
Got it. So like a combination of sort of like a idealized version of what you hoped you would get, plus
Yeah.
the real life expectations of becoming that matriarch someday and being that strong woman and accomplishing everything. So that's a lot. That's a full
Yes.
plate. That's a big
Yes.
blueprint. So did you follow the blueprint? Did parts of it work for you? Not work? Tell me.
Well, I will say that I followed some of it, and it's interesting. I'll just give you a brief story of my life. So I decided that I wanted to be a doctor. I went to high school that specialized in being a doctor, and I was like, I'm going to be this doctor. I'm going to marry someone else who's going to be this, high level. We're going to be this bumpy, high income earning family.
Power
And
couple.
power couple. Yes, like I said, the Cosby Show was the image.
Yep.
It was the image. And 2 years in, college kicked my behind. It just was
Mm-hmm.
awful. It was like they sent me to this huge school, and I was like, yeah, I got a the first semester I got a 1.5. I was like, yeah, that's not going to work for me. That's not it. And then by second year, we couldn't even afford college. It was like I couldn't even afford it. So I had to come home, lick my wound, and figure it out. I was home and working, just doing the temporary things, working in a retail store, selling clothes, those type of things. And I was kind of depressed because I felt like there was a pressure for me to do, like I said, I was trying to be the middle child, do the right thing,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
go to school, do the things, and it just wasn't working. I did wind up getting married a little early in my life. Back then you got married around 24, 25, and that's how old I was. Now today, but I can't even imagine my daughters being married now. They even look at me like, really? I can't believe you were married by then.
It was a different time.
It was definitely a different time. So, I mean, I followed that path. I followed that part of the path, getting married. But the career piece was the part I was struggling with because I didn't know what would be that next step. And oddly enough, I started out as an administrative assistant and fell into this career of resilience, business continuity. If you talk to anyone that works in business continuity, disaster recovery, majority fell into it. It was one of those, we're assigning this to you to learn it. And I was like, I
Right.
don't even know how to work a computer. What do you want me to do with business continuity? Business continuity is about planning, putting contingency plans in
Right.
place, for organizations to continue their business during any disruptive event. And I don't know what happened. It clicked. And that's where I hooked my saddle up and said, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
And this was what you were in your 20s at this time when you moved in this direction?
Probably not until I was 30.
Okay.
I still was struggling trying to find that place. So the best job I got was being an administrative assistant. And I thought that was great. Like this is what women do. We were always told back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I feel like we were told you're going to go into communications, you'll be an administrative assistant, or maybe nursing. Those
Teacher.
or a teacher.
Teacher.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. It was like we were never told of these other things that we could do. Fortunately for me, being an administrative assistant, I was, exposed to all of the organization. And that was a great transitioning for business continuity because you are planning for the whole organization. Like I knew the people to talk to. I knew who was in charge of XYZ. So and I had already built those connections because of, I had to do that in my role. So it was a great transition. And I just wish this was something that is not taught as much in the USA as an actual career.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's something you fall into. You might get a certification. You probably never heard that before. When I used to tell my mom about it, she was like, I'm like, Mom, I make contingency plans for organizations. So if something happens, they can still work. She said, so you work with computers. Yep, that's what I do. Let's go with that.
Well, let's just go with that.
We're just
Yeah, I wasn't really familiar with it until you and I connected when I started to look at your background and what you did. I mean, I kind of knew it, but not really. So very interesting. And so you built a pretty well-sustaining, successful career around this path. So what did that look like?
I fumbled my way through everything. And that was a great thing about it, but it also was very daunting for me. Because again, I was straight lace. I want to play it by the rules. And this is something that made me get out my comfort zone and also showed me that by getting out my comfort zone, I could actually grow into something that was successful. I'm not a fraidy cat, but I pulled on those experiences of, again, seeing the strong women in my family, like just because they had to be. The women in my family just had to do what they had to do because they had children they were raising, they had mortgages they had to pay, they had car notes, and they didn't have time to think about what am I going to do.
You were surrounded by women who were masters at creating contingency plans. Right?
Correct. Exactly. Yeah.
So it was like it's a natural that you grew into that
Correct.
strength.
We would tease. I would tease because my mother, like, there was times when she would have, again, because she was the oldest in her family, sometimes she would even have to take care of her brothers and sisters, and they would bring their friends over, and it would be nothing for her to go into the kitchen and make a meal for 20 people. I don't know how she did it. I was like, you had 5 loaves, and you had 5 loaves, and you had 5 fishes and 4 loaves of bread, but you made it a meal. I don't know how she did it, but she always did.
Uh-huh.
So being resourceful, and that's another thing in business content, you have to be resourceful because you have to come up with these different strategies. Like if you lose people, are you cross training people? If you lose your technology, is there another technology you can use until that one is back up? So I took those natural things I learned in my home life and personal life and was able to create a successful career in that.
You said earlier how you fumbled through it, and I can't let that comment go by because for the people around you, the people that you were working with and working for, there's no way you were fumbling your way through it. You were teaching yourself and you were figuring it out, and like you were digging in and finding out whatever you didn't know or what you didn't know, right?
Yes.
Going into this new area. So that also says a lot about your skills and what you bring to the table. So that's not fumbling. That's that's really impressive.
Yeah. Well, what I'll say is that, I had this conversation with a Gen Z millennial person, and we were sharing our differences and how we succeeded in our career. One thing I said, it was women are, the Gen X group, we were taught to just say yes. You're assigned this thing. I'm just going to say yes, and then I'll go figure it out in the background.
Right.
And the millennial group, the younger generation from us, they will push back, which if they know, and they push back, sometimes they push back respectfully and totally understand, like, I don't know how to do this thing. And it's not that I don't want to help you, but this is a weakness for me. Can I use my strength for something else? Now, meanwhile, like I said, if here's a great example. My boss asked me to build this spreadsheet. Now, I had just learned how to use Excel, just learned how to use it. He's like, build a spreadsheet. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I was like, what did I just sign up for? Now, in the long run, I learned how to do it. But what would have been the difference if I had pushed that? Would he have accepted it? Would he have said, again, it was the fear of learning. So if it was something I could maybe count on my hand of the things when I said, I truly do not know how to do this.
Right.
I'm going to say no. But for the most part, it was like, okay, they gave this to me. I guess I need to do it.
Right. Back when this happened to you,
Yeah.
I mean, we were afraid to show what we didn't know, right? We were afraid to show any weaknesses. There was, I don't want to speak for you, but but my thought was like, there's a little voice in the back of your mind that's like, I'm lucky to be here, kind of a thing. I mean, that's where I was. It's like, if I was given a promotion or put into a position, even though I exuded confidence and competence inside, that whole imposter thing that happened to us, there was just always a part of me that's like, ooh, I'm lucky I got this. So I can't show them that there's something I don't know.
Ding, ding. Yes. And again, I don't believe that anytime we were given tasks that it was malicious, like they wanted us to fail. It wasn't that at all. But it was that I finally got to the table. I can't show them that I'm not supposed to be here. That imposter syndrome, and I hate the word, and I hate it. But it's true, and what I say is that imposter syndrome is just telling you it's that 30 seconds of fear that your body is just trying to protect you, and you have to say, "Thank you for warning me. Now let me do what I need to do." I appreciate, because it's natural. Your body is telling you you can't do this, and it's like, wait a minute, let's take a pause, let's deep breath, and let's see what we can do.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to reframe it. That makes sense. But I totally relate to the experience for sure.
Yeah, and also I want to say that we tend to relate imposter syndrome to women. Everyone does. Everyone feels it. Men just don't talk about it as much. And I feel like we should stop trying to own it as just a woman's thing that we do. Women are the only ones that are imposters. No, men feel the same way. So that's the only reason why I hate the word imposter, the whole concept of imposters, because it feels like it's just this women's issue that we suffer.
Right. But doesn't it seem that they're better at hiding it or something, though? I mean, I do know they get it, but for some reason, it doesn't seem to impede them the way it does us.
Correct. Yes.
So, I'm not sure what that's about. If we can figure that out, that'd be.
Yeah, then we hit the lottery.
Right. Exactly. So as you have evolved with your family, with your career, with your profession, have you had times where you felt like you were breaking the blueprint, that you were operating somehow outside of traditional societal expectations?
I believe so, because what had started to happen was that I was getting too complacent, and I felt, Lisa, first of all, you're wasting your talent in certain areas. What are you afraid of? That really is the question for me in the past, especially in the past year and a half. Like, what are you truly afraid of? And it goes back to, again, being that middle child who didn't want to cause waves. And I had to break that. because there's several things. First of all, when you become a parent, you have to stand up for your children. So that was already starting to show me that I had to be a little different. Like sometimes you do have to cause waves. And also, I have that tendency to want to be a people pleaser. Women, especially, we tend to want to be people pleasers. Like, Lisa, you need to stop this because it's not working for you anymore. I mean, it got me to a certain point, and when I realized, similar to what you had talked about, feeling burned out, feeling the weight of the world on me, because I was trying to do things for others, I said, well, what are you doing for yourself?
Mm.
What are you, not only what are you doing for self, again, what are you afraid of? I mean, I was able to achieve so many things that I didn't give myself credit for. I was giving other people credit to say, oh, they gave me this opportunity. They gave you the opportunity, but you still had to do the job. You still had to show up, and you still, you had to take it where you needed to go. They can give you the opportunity, but you still have to show yourself. And I did that. And I wasn't allowing myself to give myself the credit that I should have got, that I deserved. It was that
Right.
humbleness. And there's something to be said to be humble. But you also have to take that time to appreciate what you did and pat your own self on the back.
Yes. Yes. So, just for context, when did that start to creep in? Some of the discontent or feeling like you needed to like reassess. When did that happen?
Really, probably after COVID, like especially when I would say probably 2023, 2024. I started to
Okay.
feel, I was getting to a certain, we get to a women of a certain age. We get to a certain age and we think we've achieved things, and then we hit a wall. Like, how am
Right.
I going to grow more? And those are the first things I started seeing. I said, Lisa, you're afraid of things because you don't want to cause waste. You need to start pivoting. You're saying
Mm-hmm.
yes way too much. I did a whole year of saying yes. I don't know why. I read it. Shonda Rhimes said, say yes, I'm going to try it. And I was like,
Yeah.
girl, that's too much.
That's exhausting.
It sounded good in theory, but it was like, yes, it exposed me to a lot of things. But I said, okay, now I need to pull back and start saying no and really be intentional about what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then last year, probably the most intentional thing I did is that I launched this podcast. And I was like, this is something that, again, I never thought I would do. I'm actually taking the creativity and the passion that is within me and starting something that is truly fearful. Truly, I'm afraid. And I said, Lisa, just do it. I mean, the worst they can do is no one listen to it. You listen to it to yourself and be happy. So why not? So
Love it.
that's what I did.
I love it. I love it. I wanna dig into this a little bit. So
Yeah.
for you mentioned complacency. I disagree with the word complacency for you, only because you had a lot of other things going on. Like I'm wondering as I think about your professional life evolving and then
Mhm.
hitting that wall and hitting that burnout, but the other things that were happening in parallel to that in your life with raising a family, and building a home and all of that. I'm wondering if that like you were able to sort of coast along in the job a while because your priorities and your energy needed to be in another area. Do you think that had anything to do with it, or am I off base there?
100%. And it was as if, I think it was as if I, didn't have the bandwidth.
Right.
I didn't have the band. I don't at the time. I didn't have the bandwidth to really, to truly feel as if I could extend my career as much as I would like to. And I, like I said, I did get complacent because I was like, okay, well, this is what it's going to be, and didn't even think about it until my children. So my daughters are 29 and 26, but when they got older and we're empty nesters, but even in the empty nester stage, I was like, I guess this is what I'm going to do. But I knew I'm gonna say from a physical standpoint, like if I answer another email, if I have to get online one more time and say the
One more
same
time.
thing over and over again,
Mhm.
obviously this is telling me something. This is the passion of working with my team and with other colleagues was waning. And I knew that was telling me something. It was telling me something needed to change. What that is, I didn't know, but I had to start exploring that. And, again, and here's what I will say. I felt like throughout my career, I wasn't intentional. Things just happened to me. Again, administrative assistant, then I got this position, and then I started growing in it, and then people were giving me things. And I was like, okay. And finally I said, Lisa, when are you going to take your own reins of this and say, do you even like this position that you're in? Do you even like this industry? I do, but it didn't even occur to me to even ask that question. Because again, it was like, I'm here, they gave this to me, I'm going to do it.
Right. Well, I think you hit it on the head when you talked about bandwidth. I mean, earlier in your career or even in the middle of it all, you just didn't even have the bandwidth to even get quiet about it for a moment, to think about how you were feeling or what you wanted to do. And it's possible that in recent years with your, children being adults and the whole empty nest thing, slowly your bandwidth started to loosen up and you had time to let in the feelings, and what you were thinking and feeling about it. And it's funny because as you were describing it, I'm thinking, okay, Lisa, what's your contingency plan?
Exactly.
It sounds like we got an emergency here. What's
correct? Correct. Because when you're constantly moving, you tend to compartmentalize those feelings. So I didn't have time to feel. I didn't have time to say, woe is me, or what am I doing? I had to get these kids grown and go to college and take care of my husband and family and, grow a life. And I didn't have time. I would literally take those things, put it on the shelf and say, I deal with it later. Because as, women, we tend not to take care of ourselves. Like if I got my nails done, that was a good day, which I just started doing again. And I was like, you got to get back to doing your nails, but I digress.
Good. I'm glad to hear you're making time for that.
Yes.
So now that you're in this season where you're really reassessing and looking at everything fresh, you've launched the podcast. Congratulations. I know what it takes to do that. I would love to hear a little bit about what that journey has been like for you as you've been trying to figure it out.
Yeah, so I launched the Leadership Story podcast, which is a podcast that celebrates and elevates women leaders and their stories from how they got in their careers, the path they took, what are some of the things what kept them to be resilient through different struggles or challenges. So the podcast came about because I was, like I said, I was looking for something to do. I had just an organization or an LLC that I was a part of, we had dissolved. And I really wanted to still get back and have these conversations. And women would reach out to me and connect with me and ask, well, how did you get in your career? Or how do you do this? And I was like, me? You want to know what I do? Okay. And that's where it came from. I was talking to someone and they said, you should start a podcast. And I said, I'm not doing a podcast. But I could hear the voice saying, do it. So that's what I started. And from this recreation, this new birth of listening to women's stories, to see that a lot of us didn't follow a blueprint. We broke the blueprint, or we didn't even know, like me, didn't even know how we got to this, where we were. Women deal with so many different challenges, from whether there's medical issues or bringing organizations through crises, and yet still be strong and be able to do their job, finding their authentic voice, which that's the one thing that I love and love to talk about, how women are still able to manage their careers and families and find their authentic voice without trying to emulate someone else or what the world is trying to tell them. So I love bringing those stories to everyone to listen to. And what will happen with this podcast, I don't know, but I'm looking forward to see what those next steps will be.
Awesome. Yes. And I highly recommend it because the topics that you cover and the women that you've spoken with, it's so compelling and inspiring. And like you said, hearing other women share their stories and finding those connections that we all have, the commonalities, and how people, face their hurdles. It's really, really good stuff. I love the episodes that you have out so far.
Thank
So
you. Thank
we'll
you.
make
And
sure
I love yours.
I've had
That's how we connected.
Exactly. I've had a similar experience with the women that I've met through this journey. It's just been life-changing for me. The things that we learn from each other is amazing, but just also the connection.
Yes.
I alluded to that at the top of our conversation. I think it's interesting to note that I had started my YouTube channel in January and put in one of my videos about pre-retirement, which, as you know, Lisa, is like the 10 or 15 years ish before retirement age. I put out a video about that went unintentionally viral. And it happened to go across the timeline of a woman, Leanna, that I haven't spoken to in a really long time. We worked together decades ago. And then Leanne connected me with Lisa. And we had a great conversation and checked out each other's podcasts. So I think that's just one example of a story of how this fosters connection and growth.
Yes. And it's always great to have women share their struggles, because sometimes we feel like we're isolated.
Yes.
And we're not allowed to talk about those things. So when we can bring women together and talk about the struggles that we have, and someone can and it resonates with someone else, and it encourages someone, that's all I want to do in the end.
I hear you. So do you have any thoughts for women out there that may be where you were a couple years ago, where you were getting that inkling of this isn't right, this isn't enough, whatever those feelings, how they presented themselves? Do you have any thoughts for women who are experiencing that now?
I do. The first thing I would say is listen to your conscience or spirit or whatever that may be that helps you first ground yourself and totally understand what's happening. There's a reason why, whether it's I'm not sleeping well, maybe, I'm eating too much, or maybe I'm gaining weight. Listen to what your body's telling you first. Secondly, listen to that inner voice, because that inner voice is going to show you the path. Now, it may not give you the answer, but it will give you an alert. And that's what I did. First of all, I also heard a voice saying, this is not working for me. Again, if I'm struggling to get up in the morning and know I have to go online, it's like, and it could just be tired. You just really could be tired, but listen to yourself, and you know better than most people about how to take care of yourself. Start with that, and then just start exploring. What is that thing that is bringing, a light to your eyes? What is something that lights you up when you talk about it? What is something? It could be something as simple as, I like to mentor people, so let me lean into that. Or I'm great at spreadsheets. Not me, but I'm great at spreadsheets. Lean into that. I mean, you would be surprised at what just changing your outlook on life does. And it can be the smallest thing, and that smallest thing can open you up to something bigger.
Excellent guidance. I really, really appreciate that. And I agree 1,000%. So I'm going to make sure that I link to your podcast in the show notes. Thank you so much, Lisa, for coming on and sharing your story and introducing us to your podcast. And I look forward to continuing to be a regular listener.
Yes. And remember, we have like 10 other episodes we need to talk about. So who knows? We might see each other again.
Very true. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of the Blueprint Breakers podcast, from playing small to speaking up in midlife. And a very special thank you to my guest, Lisa Jones. And thank you again, the listener, for listening and for sharing this episode with your friends. If you haven't done it yet, please remember to follow or subscribe, and please give us a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcasts. Have a great week. Keep on breaking those blueprints and rewriting your own.